Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this special meeting of the LA City Board of Public Works for Friday, October 16th, 2020. Good afternoon, Dr. Campos.
Good afternoon, President Good. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer, establishing quorum and doing roll call for today. We have President Good, we have Vice President Garcia, we also have President Pro Tem Davis and Commissioners Caloza and also Villegas. President Good, you do have a quorum at this time. For the record, all commissioners are dialing in remotely, including myself, and we are all dialing in today from our City Hall offices. We are joined today also by our General Counsel, Mr. Ted Jordan, who is dialing in remotely as well from home. Mr. President, currently we do not have any commentary under general public comment. We also have no commentary under the Neighborhood Council comment section. We do have one caller on the line, the developer, on item number 4, should this board have any questions from the developer. No other calls on the line.
Okay. All right. There's nothing from the neighborhood councils. Let's move forward with the agenda. We'll start with item number 1. This is approval of the minutes from Tuesday, October 6th, 2020. Do I have a second to my motion to approve these minutes?
Second.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Any objections, Vice President Garcia?
No objection.
Any objections, Commissioner Caloza?
No objections.
Thank you. Any objections, Commissioner Villegas?
No objection, thanks.
All right. Colleagues and folks, I would like to just shake up the order here really quickly. I'd like to start with go next to item number 3 on the agenda. This is from the Bureau of Street Lighting. This is a grant acceptance from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, as we all affectionately know it. Recommending the board, 1, authorize the Executive Director of the Bureau of Street Lighting, or designee, to accept this NASA grant and execute any necessary agreements in the amount not to exceed $2,500,000 from NASA for a 2.5-year period effective October 20th, 2020 through May 15th, 2023. 2, authorize the Bureau of Street Lighting to accept the NASA grant, approve the designation of the Bureau of Street Lighting as the administrative and fiscal agent for the NASA grant to facilitate receipt and disbursement of grant funds, track and report matching funds, as well as reimburse the city for any grant-related expenditures. 3, approve the program grant agreement for the Bureau of Street Lighting to assist the city in the NASA grant implementation in accordance with the terms and conditions set forth in the grant agreement. 4, authorize the controller to transfer and deposit $822,271 from the fund TBD to the Bureau of Street Lighting Fund at 347 Department 50, account TBD. 5, approve the program grant agreement between the Bureau of Street Lighting and Open AQ in the amount of $74,000 to conduct 2 workshops and assist the city in the NASA grant implementation in accordance with the terms and conditions set forth in the grant agreement. And 6, approve the program grant agreement between the Bureau of Street Lighting and the California State University, Los Angeles in the amount of $433,593 to conduct data analysis and assist the city in the NASA grant. Megan Hackney from the Bureau of Street Lighting is with us, as is Gene Holmes, the Chief Data Officer for the Mayor's Office. Both joining with us, worked very hard on this, and we look forward to hearing much about it. Hi Megan. Hi, Gene.
Oh, hi. Good afternoon, President Good and Commissioners. Thank you for hearing us on this exciting item. So even though we're here today for the Bureau of Street Lighting to request authorization to accept the grant, I'm going to do the smart thing and pass it over to the city's Chief Data Officer, Jean Holmes. She's the resident expert on the project, so I'll let Jean do the presentation.
Thank you, Megan.
Great. Thank you very much, President Good. Thank you, Megan. Hi, I'm Jean Holm. I'm the Chief Data Officer and the Mayor's Senior Technology Advisor, and was the principal investigator in putting together this grant opportunity. The grant focuses on air quality. This is an important issue for us as we are going through fire season, but also even during COVID, where we know that people who suffer from asthma and COPD have a higher incidence and higher complexity of symptoms and conditions around the COVID pandemic. This project looks at combining data from NASA satellites and a lot of data that our city departments have, but have not had a lot of time to organize. So you've all heard about different departments putting in pilot activities or air quality sensors. We are working with the AQMD throughout the Southern California area to connect their air quality sensors and a variety of others to be able to integrate all of this data in a way that lets us actually learn from what we've been doing, learn what are the most important kinds of activities that the city has that have been most effective in reducing air pollution, and then also to provide the ability to predict what the air quality is going to be like in the future. So this is not predicting a year ahead, but a week or two and a few days ahead as well. The way in which we do this is we use technology called machine learning. And so this lets us look at all of this data, put it together, and sort it out. The benefits from the city are a few different things. One is, as many of you know, we are working on a smart city strategy with Information Technology Agency that's been connecting information across all of the city departments and looking at how we kind of want to work in a more integrated way as we move forward. The second piece is that we're working, obviously, much more with the county public health officials, and we're also working with, on this project, with organizations like the Southern California Asthma Association and Anthem Blue Cross, who provision health information out to people. They are all interested in being able to get access to better information about air quality. We have it at a very large scale, but not at a small scale. And the small scale is really where our new smart cities and Internet of Things sensors come to play. Bureau of Street Lighting has been leading the way in the deployment of these kinds of air quality sensors, but transportation, the library, other public works, sanitation, a lot of departments have 10, 20, 30 different sensors. Part of what we'll do with this grant money is work with those departments to help collect the data and organize it in a way that's useful to them so they don't have to kind of worry about all of that, but also aggregate it together for the city and for the region so that we can have this complete air quality picture of what's happening. The reason this becomes important is because we don't have equitable air quality measurements right now. And so, for example, we all know AQMD as the big air quality organization, but they only have 40 sensors across all of Southern California. And so there's areas that they don't connect to. And when we started to put a map together, we realized that there's areas in Watts and South LA that we have not had enough air quality sensors. So it's a blind area for us on how we can have city interventions and what kind of air quality issues are happening. And our geography varies so much that it does vary quite a bit from one part of the city to the other. So our partnership on this is with two organizations. One is Cal State LA. We've partnered with them before on a Toyota Mobility Foundation grant around transportation safety. They've been a great partner. Mohammed Pourmahamian and the data science and computer science group down there is planned to be a heavy lifter of some of the machine learning and models and kind of geeky aspects of this. And then we do expect that the Bureau of Street Lighting will have a central role in understanding some of the issues around where deployment of sensors is needed, how those get deployed, what kind of sensors, because again, a lot of this goes onto the infrastructure for public works, but particularly for street lighting. And then we also have two other offices involved, which is our Chief Resilience Officer, Aaron Groves, in MOPS, who is Mayor's Office of Public Safety, who is looking at issues around more emergency things like wildfires and resilience. And the second one is Irene Berga, who works in the Mayor's Office Sustainability team, and she's our air quality expert for the city. So they've been instrumental in this. The second group that would get some funding is OpenAQ. They are based back east. That's Open Air Quality. So they organize and manage a lot of data and workshops and training groups to do that. So that would be a group that we would work with to help make sure that we're getting the information out to folks in the way that's most useful to them. And then finally, there's a very interesting part of this proposal, which is not only are we going to be able to help departments with the data they have, not only are we going to be able to get this information out to departments to understand what's the most effective services they've got, and through health organizations partnering with them, they can get this information out to the people who they're serving, their clients and patients, to be able to get critical health information out to them. But we're also going to do this in a way that's called open source. So it's a way that we can share these models and data from the NASA satellites with other cities around the world. And so as part of the C40, as part of our own 100 Resilient Cities Network and other networks, we'll be holding workshops, obviously virtually, but internationally with other cities around the world to help cities in Africa, Asia, Europe, South America, and Australia to be able to address some of the same issues that we find we're challenged as a city to address.
Hey, thank you, Jean. Let's open up for questions or comments. President Pro Tem Davis.
Thank you, Jean, for your report. As we look at our overall goal in terms of sustainability, I know, for example, as we look at sanitation and we look at the ways in which we try to decrease what we are putting in the ground, we developed a policy of zero waste. What is analogous to that as it relates to air? What kind of activities do we have that we measure in terms of reflecting a goal that we have aspired to achieve as it relates to better managing air quality?
Thank you very much for the question. I think there's two aspects. So one is that the just kind of regular activity that happens around the city, as you all must realize, generates air pollution. So traffic on the streets and at the airport. But the Port of Los Angeles is actually one of the areas where a lot of air pollution comes. It inequitably affects the communities like Wilmington and San Pedro down at the port. It's not necessarily the port itself, it's actually the fact that every ship that comes into the port pollutes as much as 167,000 cars. So that is a huge impact. Part of what we want to be able to do with this is understand where those problems are. And again, we have sort of this broad view across the city, but we don't know for the neighborhood level. And people live in neighborhoods, and so people with asthma really need to be able to understand that. So one is just trying to get a much better map of where things are happening. If we see that there's issues or something unusual happening, that would also give us the ability to alert that maybe there's something we should go and look at, investigate, see if somebody's meeting the pollution regulations that we have in place and that kind of thing. And the second piece is really looking at equity. So right now, the way in which things have been chosen and where placement has happened with air quality sensors has happened for lots of reasons. And I'm not going to, ascribe any sort of motivations to any of that. But what we do know is that it's not equitable. And it's particularly not equitable in communities in the valley where we have now like extraordinary heat issues going on during the summers. And it's also not equitable for areas like South LA. We do know that we have measurements at the port, but sort of as we expand past the port, we aren't measuring it. And so part of this would be really looking at that equity issue. How can we get better information out to folks in those communities and start to understand like this newer issue where we're having these new heat waves in the last few years, in the valley particularly, what effect that has on people's health and what effect it has on air pollution.
Do we have measures that we enforce at the port in terms of trying to limit emissions from ships or vehicles or vessels that come in? Do we have measures that we implement in that regard or objectives?
I'm not an expert on the port regulations, but I do know that there are regulations.
I see. Okay. And then so what have we proposed in terms of the valley and Watts as it relates to the lack of even evaluating the status of air in those areas? What have we proposed to get up to speed about better management in those critically important areas of the city?
Sure. In relation to this grant specifically or more generally?
Yeah. Well, in general and in particular, if the grant is a solution to the gap, I would certainly like to hear that.
Sure, of course. So I know that we've recently done a project with the distribution of air quality sensors in Watts. So we've actually doubled down in that community very recently. I think that just happened in the last 6 weeks, Megan. It was pretty.
A little earlier than that, but we put up 13 air quality sensors in the Watts area.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
So we're just starting to get back data about that. And then the other aspect is there's two pieces. One is kind of creating this integrated map. Like, we don't have to have all the air quality sensors ourselves as a city. We just want to make sure we're sharing data back and forth. So if county owns some and the AQMD owns some, that's fine. But we want to create this integrated maps. But one, we want to make sure there's coverage everywhere at least everywhere that people live, right?
Right.
And then secondarily, that coverage is at the level at which we can understand what's happening in the neighborhood. So the NASA satellite data is great because it goes over our city every day and has since 1970. But it's like really big. It's not enough to tell what's happening at a block level. So this augments it. We do have funding in this grant to be able to buy additional air quality sensors, big and small, kind of depends on to what BSL wants to do, and to be able to then look at it both from a mapping perspective and an environmental justice perspective. So I think both of those have to play. We're not sure, because we haven't really started the work yet, we don't really know all of the specific communities in the valley that would, be beneficiaries of this. We're open to hearing from lots of different folks about what makes sense. There's another interesting aspect of this, which is called citizen science. So citizen science lets people get more involved in a kind of a more technical way that's not off-putting. And so there's a part of the grant that we've set aside to be able to buy small sensors. So these are the ones that people could put at their house. They're about $150. They're called Purple Air, and there's another one called SafeCast. And so this is areas where we might want to actually work more intensely with the community, that's more affected by air quality, and be able to give them sensors that they can also augment to the map, but also educate themselves, right? So they can feel that they were part of it, and they will be part of it. The data from those gets shared publicly, and people can be part of the science behind it.
Good. My final question, to what degree are we concerned about the urban forestry? And does it have any impact, any whatsoever, in terms of air quality?
It obviously has a huge impact. So we know that the access to green spaces and the equitable deployment of green spaces, it has many effects on sort of happiness and health. But specifically around air quality, large mature trees help to filter out particulate matter in the air and make it so that in general, it helps a community. One of the interesting things about this project is that when we go and do tree planting, we want to measure it right away, but those trees are immature, right? They're small. And so a small tree doesn't really do much, have much effect on air quality. 15 years later, going back to that neighborhood, now we have a mature tree canopy, and suddenly it does make a difference over those 15 years. Because the NASA satellite data goes back to the 1970s, we're going to be able to retroactively go back and see what effect it's had in different communities and look at even the types of trees. So we could tell if an oak versus a maple has a different kind of effect. The other aspect is we're working with Google as part of a pilot activity on their Environmental Explorer, and they've just helped us map the entire tree canopy for the city. So this will be part of trying to get additional support and services that we don't have to pay for, but that we're willing to pilot with, and we're working with the Chief Forest Office around that.
So do we have some advocacy as a result of your work as it impacts the urban forestry and policy that we implement or don't implement as a result of the work? Is there some advocacy that is recommended or some influence that you seek to be able to implement in some regard as it relates to that?
Yes, so we're open to what the board and the council are interested in kind of moving forward with. We do have both the sustainability team and the resilience team kind of involved so that we're better able to understand from their perspective where we might want to be moving forward and what kind of interventions the city's doing. And then with these workshops, with this Open AQ group, The workshops and the citizen science activities will help us get more input from different constituents. So some of those will be individual residents in Los Angeles, and some of those will be groups that work on behalf of them, like the Southern California Asthma Association. We want to make sure that we understand not only what's effective, but also what people want.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, President Davis. Commissioner Coloso.
Thank you, President Good. Hi, Jeannie, nice to see you as always. I love working with the IPA team, and especially, you already know this, the 311 team. This is really exciting, and this is a really big deal in terms of what the city is able to accomplish, even in the midst of a pandemic. Somehow we are still announcing new work and new initiatives by chasing after really competitive grant dollars. So this is pretty remarkable that you all partnered with ESL to really, and all these other partners listed in the board report, to tackle an issue that may not traditionally be thought of as an issue that ESL handles or that ITA handles. And I think it begs the question, like, whose responsibility is public health? Whose responsibility is taking care of the welfare of our community? And the answer is everybody. And so this is such a fantastic achievement for the city. I don't have any questions for you. I'm just really excited and fully supportive of this work, and I can't wait to see what the results bring and what benefits we will yield from this project, especially our residents. So thank you for all your hard work. Thank you, Megan, and all your partners.
Thank you, Commissioner Colosa. And I just want to acknowledge the amazing leadership that the Bureau of Street Lighting has had for the past several years, for sure, about trying different things, piloting different technologies, and it's made it a very obvious choice for BSL to lead this work forward, even though it sounds that there's a lot of data science, and which is why we're going to work together. It really is about how does a city step forward into that opportunity? How do we not step into public health, but support the public health and then the gathering of data in ways that will help people make better decisions?
Great. All right. So Commissioner Villegas.
Hello, hi, thanks for your report, Ms. Holm, and good to meet you. I think I've just seen you a few times, but good to hear about the innovative, grant that you all were able to get, and even have the foresight to be able to apply for this type of money. So that's a big deal, and so I just wanted to say that. I just have a few questions, and you mentioned them in your report to us, but I think it is important just to highlight the importance of the data that you all will be gathering and sharing. So Streets LA does a lot of work on cool streets, with coding of our streets. And we started them in South LA. So it'll be, good information to share with our other bureaus once you get all those data points and information, so that it just confirms, right, where we are putting our resources, and just to be able to give reprieve to the constituents that live in areas that are really, really hot. And also just to the areas that you also mentioned in the San Fernando Valley, the north part of our valley, since we're seeing such increased heat over the summer. The other aspect I wanted to just highlight or ask is this information that you'll be receiving. You said that you'll be sharing it with other cities. Would it be good to share it with, since the mayor is, the leader of the Paris Agreement, is it good to share it with them so that other cities around the world can obviously learn of urban density and, the best management practices that we have to endure here.
Exactly, Commissioner. And we're a city that is blessed with having a variety of technologies and sensors and infrastructure. Not all cities have that capability. So both through the C40 that the mayor leads and through some other networks like the Mayor's Climate Group and the 100 Resilient Cities networks, we've reached out to a variety of cities around the globe to look at who might be interested. We're particularly looking at cities both that we normally partner with, like the other Olympic cities and others, but we're also looking at cities throughout the global south. This is important because cities like Freetown, Sierra Leone, or Cape Town, South Africa, don't necessarily have as many ground sensors as we do. And so the idea is by kind of having this rich data environment here in Los Angeles, we're going to be able to predict pretty accurately. The way that the data and machine learning works is that those algorithms will be able to be applied to areas where there may not be as many dense ground data sensors. So we think it's actually going to have a pretty important effect in being able to manage and understand air quality data, even in other countries that are in other cities that are very different. The data is going to be made available through our open data portal here at the city, and then also through OpenAQ, which runs augments the Environmental Protection Agency and other national groups that share air quality data.
Thank you for that. That was my next question, just dealing with OpenAQ and just having that information sharing and how that was going to be distributed, seeing that it's quality data. I won't take up more of your time, but I was it raised an issue, just a question in my mind, just on the data and who was going to get it and how it was going to be shared and all that kind of information. But seeing that you're also going to be putting that data on this open data portal, which I didn't know, is helpful. So it seems like it can be readily accessible to a lot of different groups of people.
Right. We know that right now we want to provide it to people who are providing health care to those who are suffering from asthma and other COPD issues. But there may be others that want to have this data for lots of reasons. And so we want to make sure that it's, because it doesn't have any private data in it, it's just air quality measurements. And so we just want to make sure that that's accessible to as many people as possible and is easy to consume away, both by people and by machines.
And very innovative. I really appreciate you coming to our board to share this. Thank you both, Ms. Safney and Ms. Holm.
Thank you, Commissioner.
No more questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Villegas. Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, President Good. Jean, Megan, and the team, I just want to congratulate you on working on this and working on making sure that it's all integrated and we have a fully developed program here for the city. I'm very excited that BSL's team is part of this as well, and they'll be doing doing a lot of the work as well, like the maintaining, the buying, the installing, and so forth. So I'm happy to know that and hear that, and I'm happy that we're working together with ITA. That's all I have. I've been briefed on this, so I'm very excited about it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. So I would echo what our colleagues have said. Congratulations, Jean. Congratulations, Megan, on really great work, innovative work. This is none of this stuff comes quickly or without a lot of grinded out work, research, etc. And I know you two, and I've certainly worked with Eugene on a lot of things. That's how you roll. One quick operational question I just wanted to ask is, will BSL sensors actually be part of the purchase and installation? Will that be part of the initial 1.3 million, or is that subsequent? Is the first 1.3 about the research and the algorithms and putting all the landscaping together, for lack of a better way to put it? Then we start doing sensors. What's the sort of sequencing of the sensors?
The sensors are a part of the initial spend.
Okay.
So it's included within the 1.3 million, and BSL has the ability to decide exactly how many large sensors, medium sensors, small sensors make sense for them, and where they want to install it and how they want to operate those.
Do we have any kind of ballpark on how many sensors we'll be deploying as a sort of, as an initial round with this grant money?
We have about $85,000 set aside right now in the grant. There's some flexibility if we find that we need more sensors because there's just more gaps in the map. I think that equates to something like 30 or 40 sensors, Megan?
Yeah, I think that's what we had on the budget spreadsheet as an estimate.
Okay. BSL continues to redefine the compound smart pole, and it's an amazing thing. I don't think 10 years ago we even would have thought of the phrase smart pole, and now you guys just keep making them smarter. And a little friend called NASA is going to help make that happen. Obviously, that's exciting. So I don't really have questions. Just congratulations on the work. Obviously, this grant will the authority to grant accept the grant will need to be approved by council and the mayor as well. So I know that they're anxious to hear this. This is an exciting development for the city. So thank you. I will entertain a motion to move the item forward. Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Do I have a second? All right.
Second.
Commissioner Villegas, quick on the draw. President Pro Tem Davis with a fast second to the second. Commissioner Calosa, any objections?
No objections.
You and I get to stand on the sidelines. But hearing no objections, the item is approved forthwith. Thank you very much, Megan. Thank you very much, Gene. Can't wait to see the progress on this. Thank you all.
Thank you for hearing us.
Okay, bye. All right, colleagues, let's move back to item number 2. I think I saw Mr. Kaporis with us from sanitation. Yes. How are you, sir?
Hi, President. Good.
Good to see you.
Okay.
So item number, let me just read this into the record, Costa. Item number 2. This is also exciting, by the way, and a very, very long time coming. This is a memorandum of agreement, not the MOU is not, or the MOA is, but the project. This is a memorandum of agreement, Aliso Creek Limekiln Creek Restoration Project in CD12, recommending the board approve and authorize the president or 2 members of the Board of Public Works and the director of the Bureau of Sanitation or designee to execute the proposed memorandum of agreement between the Bureau of Sanitation and the Los Angeles Department of Recreation and Parks for the operation and maintenance of the Aliso Creek Limekiln Creek Restoration Project. Costa Kaporis is with us from Sanitation. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, President. Good afternoon, commissioners, and everybody who's here. This is one of our proper projects. We had to defer it because it was, I think, originally it only provided funding for the design, and now we're in the process of obtaining funding for the construction.
I think this started with Councilmember Greg Smith's first.
I believe so. I think there is a 10-year delay from the time it was approved as a concept. Now we're trying to get it approved. Again, we're asking for more money, so to be able to construct it. But this board item is to allow us to enter into an agreement with our partner agency here, which is the Recreation and Parks. Actually, we need another agreement with LA County because we are diverting flow from their channels. But the project overall takes flow from the Aliso Creek, which comes from the north, and the Limekiln Creek comes from the west. To the site, we will divert the flow, and it will allow us to treat it using biofiltration basins, which are vegetative basins that will treat the runoff, and whatever flow is not evapotranspired will be returned back into the channels. So this agreement delineates the responsibilities between rec and parks and sanitation. We would be responsible for the water quality improvements. There's a number of recreational elements that we're improving, and the appendices to the MOU has a nice map that delineates who is responsible for which. We're getting ready to, and we're hoping we'll be able to start advertise the project and start construction. So the expense of operating and maintaining the facility, it's more than 2 years down the road. That's overall the project. And just to correct something, I think in the briefing with President Good and Commissioner Garcia, I may have said the cost is 16 million. It's including the soft cost and construction, it's actually 11 million.
11 million, okay. All right, colleagues, questions and comments. Commissioner Colosa.
Thank you, President Good. Thank you, Mr. Kaporis, for your presentation. What is the timeline for when you're going to be in design and then construction and then completion?
We are looking at, once we get, there's 3 sort of minor issues pending to be able to advertise the project. One is establishing this agreement with Rec and Parks. And also we need to establish an agreement with LA County because we're using their channels to divert flow. And we had to ask for additional funding that will go through COAG and AOC, the proper oversight committees to get the funding. And that item is pending approval by the Environment, Climate Change and Environmental Justice Committee. So we anticipate in 2-3 months to get those 3 items resolved, and then we'll advertise. So let's say towards the end or early next year, we'll advertise. That takes about 6 months, and we're looking at 2 years of construction period. So we're hoping by early 2023 to be, or middle of 2023, to have the facility operating.
Got it. And just curious for this specific park, is there any community feedback where the community should expect to be able to give some input? I know sometimes Rec and Park does that, or we do that with some of our Propo projects for what they want to see for the specific site.
Yeah, actually we did during the design phase. We are at the end of the design, but during the design phase, we not only interacted with our colleagues at Rec and Parks, there was community meetings and participation. But this is adjacent to Van Olden Park, so I shouldn't exaggerate the recreational elements, but primarily this project is a water quality improvement project. We did receive comments and actually, and we recently were approached on our selection of plants from a biodiversity perspective. So we're meeting with a couple of community members and 2 professors, one from Cal State Northridge and one from UCLA, to get their input on selecting some of the plant species that will enhance the biodiversity. But the project did receive, just like our all Propo projects, extensive community outreach and input.
Okay. Thank you for answering, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Years to get here. So I guess 3 years doesn't seem that long for the rest of this completion.
No.
Thank you.
Takes time.
Commissioner Closer. Custer, one quick question, and then I'll kick it back over. Please remind, how much money is already secured, Propo money is secured?
I don't have it in front of me. I think originally, I think the total is 11. I think originally the additional funding, I think, is about 6.4. But I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, but we have a little less than half locked in.
Yeah, but this is it's within the funds available within Propo.
Within Propo, yeah. No, I was just curious more than anything. Okay. President Pro Tem Davis.
Yeah, no questions for me on this particular item.
Thank you, sir. Vice President Garcia.
Thank you, President Good. Costa, I just have one quick question, and you probably said this, and you probably said it in a briefing, and I don't know. Will the community have some kind of benefit when the project is all done and set? Like, I know that a lot of what we're doing is internal, but on the outside, will there be like a park, a new?
Yeah.
What would it be? And I'm sorry if you already said it.
No. I actually right now, if you go to Van Olden Park, it's a nice park. It's a landscape, but then you look past the vegetated, the lawn area of the park, and you see a desolate area. In that, there's no vegetation. It looks, I think desolate is the right term. So this will make it look much more beautiful, much more greener. The plants and the vegetation we will place, including trees in the peripheral above the area of inundation of the bifiltration basins. So I think aesthetically it will enhance it. We are also providing Rec and Parks some enhancement, including some park features, including fencing and gates and I think some park furniture as well. But again, the project is predominantly a water quality improvement, but it will have aesthetic benefits to the park.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. I'm sure we're gonna leave it nice and beautiful.
It will.
Thank you. That's all for me.
Thank you very much, Vice President Garcia. Commissioner Villegas.
No questions. This is a long-term project. I'm glad it's to fruition. Thank you, Mr. Kaporis, for the explanation, and I'm glad that we're going to move it through.
Yeah, long process. I think I voted on the design money when I sat on the Propo Administrative Oversight Committee like 5 years ago. So it's good to see this moving along. The MOA is very important. All right, thank you, Mr. Forrest. Very helpful. And we keep taking baby steps along the way. It's crucial. Do I have a motion to move this item forward?
So move.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Villegas. Any objections, Vice President Garcia?
No objections.
All right. Any objections, Commissioner Closer?
I'm just kidding. Mr. Forrest.
All right. Hearing no objections, a tiny bit of equivocation, we will move the item. The item is approved forthwith. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend,
everybody. Thank you.
All right, colleagues. Let's move on to item number 4. Item number 4 is from Streets LA. This is in CD14. This is a tree removal at 1340 South Hill Street. Recommending the board, 1, find under the California Public Resources Code, Section 21166, and the state's Environmental Quality Act, CEQA guidelines, Section 15162. on the basis of substantial evidence contained in the whole record that since the city's prior certification of mitigated negative declaration, MND number ENV-2016-1213-MND, there have been no changes to the project, changes with respect to the circumstances under which the project is being undertaken, or new information of substantial importance regarding or concerning the project which cause new significant environmental effects or a substantial increase in the severity of previously identified significant effects, and therefore no subsequent MND, supplemental MND, or other analysis is required for the project. 2, specify that the Bureau of Street Services Urban Forestry Division located at 1149 South Broadway is custodian of the documents or other materials that constitute the record of proceedings upon which the board's decision is based. 3, review and approve the request for a fee permit for the removal of 4 African fern pine, 2 jacaranda, and 2 yellow pine trees. Tree replacements are required. And 4, concur with the Bureau of Street Services determination that the site cannot feasibly accommodate all of the required replacement trees, and pursuant to LAMC 62.177C, authorize the tree replacement guarantee fee to satisfy the board's tree planting requirement. Hector Benuelos is with us from Streets LA today. Good afternoon, Hector.
Yes, good afternoon, President Good, Commissioners. This is Hector Banuelos of the Streets LA Urban Forestry Division. We have the Suncoast Hill Street LC are proposing to construct a 7-story 282 residential unit apartment, mixed-use apartment at 1340 South Hill Street. According to the applicant, they need to provide an area. They're required to provide an area for material stage in order to construct the project. Therefore, they are requesting a permit, that the board approve a permit to remove 8 street trees. Initially, the applicant approached Streets LA requesting to remove 13 trees. That is all the trees that are located on the site there. We then communicated with the applicant and discussed the project and the needs to remove the trees, and the goal was to minimize the amount of trees that are required to be removed. Want to save all the mature trees that we could, all the healthy mature trees. And as a result, we were able to keep 5 trees in place. So there are 4 jacaranda trees that are growing on South Broadway street side. There are another 4 African fern pine and 1 yew pine growing on 14th Street side of this location here. And there are 2 Australian willows and 1 jacaranda tree growing on Hill Street. And there's a small segment there along 14th Place where there is 1 yew pine. The yew pines there's 2 of them that could be affected. They're really very small canopies on them, very, poorly performing trees, and then we have, and those can be impacted by the street improvements and material staging. The 4 jacaranda trees on Broadway, only 1 of those trees will be impacted, and that's due to Department of Water powered transformer vault, and the applicant's required to have the area clear, free, and access for water and power to perform service, not only to install, but also to perform their maintenance as required. And so there's also another tree, a jacaranda tree, up on Hill Street. There's 1 tree on the corner of Hill Street and 14th Street that's going to be impacted by, the applicant's required to install a sound wall, so according to the applicant, he has to remove the tree. But in addition to that, there's also some required street improvements, which include, I call them bulb outs at the corners, and so 3 of the corners on the property will have those bulb outs, and that 1 jacaranda will also be negatively affected by that required street improvement. If approved, the applicant will plant. There's room to plant 9 trees on the project. There'll be 5 48-inch box-sized London plane trees on 14th Street, and 2 48-inch box-sized London plane trees on 14th Place, and 2 48-inch box-sized Australian willow trees and feasibly planted on Hill Street. The site cannot accommodate all the 16 trees needed to satisfy the 2-to-1 tree replacement for the board, and so therefore we're requesting that the board authorize the Streets LA to or actually the applicant, to pay the tree planting guarantee fee for 7 trees. If the Community Forestry Advisory Committee, the Department of Empowerment, and the Council District 14 were notified of the tree removal permit request, and the Urban Forestry has not received any response from the council office, whether indicating that they're either in support or opposed to the project and or tree removals. That concludes my presentation. If there are any questions.
All right, thank you, Hector. Colleagues, Vice President Garcia, why don't you let us know if you've got questions or comments.
Thank you, President Good. Hector, did you say that some trees are going to be removed for staging purposes again?
Yes, that is correct. According to the applicant, they're required to clear, they have a lane closure for 14th Street, so the entire 14th Street is going to be is designated for material staging for concrete pumps and logistics support in the material staging areas, yes.
And are those trees in poor condition, good condition? Are they fully mature trees?
There is one yew pine that is a poor performer. They're not very large tree. They're typically they don't grow very well in tree wells, and that's what we have growing. One of those. The African fern pines are healthy. They're nice looking trees, but unfortunately they're going to be in the way of the according to the applicant, they're going to be in the way of the crane lifting, hoisting for materials and concrete pumps and other logistic support needed to construct the project.
And once the project is fully done and completed and they remove, their equipment, what will happen after that? What's going to happen? What's going to be left behind in that area?
When they're after the project's all said and done, they are going to replant trees.
Are they going to be, what size of trees are they going to plant on that specific area where they use for staging?
On the particular, there's room for 5. They're London planes, they're 40-inch box-sized trees. They're about 4 inches, approximately between 3.5, 4 inches in diameter caliper. Measured about 6 inches above the base. That's the typical standard there for those size trees.
So we're going to lose a tree at the end of the day there? Because I think you said there was 5 there now, right? Yeah,
there are 5 there. There are going to be 5 replaced there. They have street lighting. They have a lot of other infrastructure and driveways being constructed there along the 14th Street side.
Okay. And you said 48-inch will go in there, right?
Yes, 48-inch box-sized trees. That's correct.
I just want to make I'm fine with this situation because they're going to come back and make sure that they're putting big trees and not baby trees at that moment because we're losing nice, pretty trees. I just want to just make the point again that, if we can get away from removing trees for staging purposes, I would prefer that just because, it's a temporary situation, but if their intention is to fully restore that and put trees back, I guess on this case, not my ideal situation, but it's okay.
Yes, I understand. And the urban forestry, we're always scrutinizing these really to the bone, you might say. We want to ensure that if the trees are removed, there's a definite need to remove the trees and not just remove them just to clear cut the areas, basically, and just kind of make it as a convenience as opposed to necessity.
Exactly, that's what I don't want. Thank you so much for doing that, Hector, and I appreciate the work that Streets LA does and making sure that we scrutinize to make sure that we're not just bringing down trees just because. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Hector. That's
You're
all,
welcome.
President.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Commissioner Coloso.
Thank you, President Good. Thank you, Mr. Banuelos, for your presentation. I have one question for you and one question for the applicant. I think they're on the line. In your assessment when you were going through this project with the applicant, just curious, were there any trees that Urban Forestry ended up saving as a result of your assessment? I think
yes.
that's helpful to know.
Yes, and thanks for asking that question. Yes, there were. I indicated that they initially requested 13 trees to be removed, which is all the trees on the whole site. However, when we were questioning and asking questions, why, we come down to determine that only 8 of the 13 trees need to be removed, and so there are going to be 3 jacaranda trees remaining in place along Broadway. And there's 2 Australian willows going to remain in place along Hill Street. So there are 5 trees to remain in place altogether.
Thanks for restating that. I think that's always really helpful just to emphasize the work that you all do to literally look at every single tree and document it and assess it. Is the applicant on the line by chance, Dr. Campos?
He is. Michael,
Yes,
if you can press start. Go ahead, Michael.
I would just want to correct one thing that Hector said. The project actually includes 235 units, residential units, not 282. So it's much smaller than projected. I would also like to compliment Hector. We've been working on this. I've actually been in this process for going on 22 months to get to this hearing today. So I appreciate his effort. As we did go back and forth many times, the MND was approved where it was contemplated that all the trees on this property would be taken down. That's obviously not always our goal, but it might be helpful for the board to understand that in circumstances like this project where land is so expensive and developers, owners, equity partners want to build from wall to wall, property line to property line, right up to the street, which is, what the planning department always influences, that we get great retail and it's very active. The sidewalk and streetscape is very important. It was always our plan to put back nice sized trees. In this case, working with Hector, we've upgraded them to 48-inch box trees, as Hector says. Will be, quite tall, have a nice diameter of the trunk, so the place will look gorgeous. My client's family has owned this property for 65 years, and they will own it for another 65 years. That's the intent. So we've been working with Hector to do everything we can, and working with our general contractor to move things around. How could we resequence activities, material handling? When you build a project wall to wall, and you need another 6, 7, 8 feet for scaffolding and safe work outside of the exterior face of the building, when the sidewalk's only 12 feet wide, it doesn't leave you very much room. And that's why we have to, unfortunately, demo these trees, replace them, and we are also able to, through Hector's evaluation, realize that we were going to come up short, although I think we do have enough trees on the entire site between the courtyards, et cetera. We are planting a number of trees on the property in the private residential spaces. We are more than willing to make this contribution to plant hopefully 7 other trees that will be somewhere within the vicinity of this project, but, they may be on the other side of town too, so.
Great, thank you. My question for you, I appreciate you adding that to my question for Mr. Banuelos. My question for you is actually around the actual units themselves. So just to add on to what you mentioned, are there any low-income housing units for this project?
Yes, actually, the project was approved in 2017. We have a fair number of affordable dwelling units in the project, and my clients also agreed to put in workforce housing as well, which is at a percentage of median income. So we have that's being approved right now by the housing department. We're waiting. We expect their covenant to document all of this over the next week, because we are probably 4 weeks from pulling a permit to get started on the project.
Got it.
But yes, well, I don't have that material in front of me because I'm not actually in my office. I apologize for that. I believe we have 11% affordable because of code. And then I know that I think we had an additional 20 units that were workforce housing.
So I'll read to you what it says here in the attachments in the board report, Michael, and you can let us know and confirm whether or not this is correct. So here it says that you have 235 residential apartment units, including 12 very low income and 47 workforce housing units. Is that correct?
Those numbers sound familiar, yes.
I don't have any further questions. President Good, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Mr. Banuelos, for answering my questions.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Colosa. And then Commissioner Villegas. Commissioner Villegas?
Okay, I'm unmuted. I thought it was already unmuted.
No worries, no worries.
Thank you, Mr. Banuelos, for the report, and I'm glad that the developer is also here and able to give just a good understanding of the project. I understand we're just removing the 8 trees, so I don't have any questions. I'm good. I was briefed on this item, and I hear Commissioner Garcia's concern. It's difficult for us when we're like the last approving entity to be able to, get to this point, and then the developer is just 4 weeks away from from starting his project, because these projects have already been, vetted, and then by the time they get to us, we are just one step from breaking ground for them. So it's a juxtaposition, right, that they put us in, but that's, government for the time being. We'll work through those issues. Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. I would share that. Thank you, Hector, for working with Michael. I can't remember your last name. What's your last name, sir?
Schwartzman, Michael Schwartzman of Develop. I'm a development management consultant.
Great. Thank you, Hector, for working with Mr. Schwartzman on getting to 8 versus 13, which I think is something that shouldn't be lost. I do see the work of Streets LA in this process to minimize that impact. Thank you, Michael, for working with Streets LA to achieve less loss as well. I think also the fact that these are 48-inch trees, i.e. not unsubstantial, I think is meaningful to Vice President Garcia's point. Again, it is always with heavy heart that we remove trees for staging, but it's a really dense area. It's really, it feels really challenging, and we will certainly benefit from the 250 units or 200 plus units that you guys will be putting in. So thanks everybody for the thank you everybody for the work and the presentation. I will entertain a motion to move this tree removal approval forward.
So moved.
All right. I have a second.
Second.
Seconded. So I've got a motion from Commissioner Villegas and a second from President Pro Tem Davis. Any objections? Commissioner Colosa or Vice President Garcia?
Objections.
Okay. Hearing no objections, the item is approved forthwith. Thank you, Hector. Thank you, Mr. Schwartzman.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. You all have a wonderful day. I appreciate this.
Thank you. You as well. Good luck with the project. Okay, folks, let's move on to item number 6. Item number 6 is a revocable permit, encroachment in the public right-of-way, Goodwill Industries of Southern California, 1200 Vine Street. Recommending the board, this is at CD 13 for the record, recommending the board authorize the Office of Community Beautification to grant revocable permission to encroach within the public right-of-way, subject to listed conditions to Goodwill Industries of Southern California. The encroachment is an installation of a planter area, drought-tolerant plants, and replacement of a missing tree at 1200 Vine Street, Los Angeles, in Council District 13. 2, issue no fee revocable permit for work to be performed. Or 3, issue no fee a permit for work to be performed. And 4, Request the Bureau of Contract Administration to provide a no-fee inspection. Jerry Vallito from the Office of Community Beautification is with us today. Hello, good afternoon, Jerry.
Good afternoon, President Good, Commissioners. Hope everyone's well. Jerry Vallito, Assistant Director of the Office of Community Beautification. Today's adopted meeting submission is a Council District 13 funded beautification project which the Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative, or LANI, will be implementing. This project is of special benefit to CD13 residents, and money has been allocated from CD13's Council District AB 1290 fund to undertake this effort. Improvements involved in this particular project will include saw cutting the existing 9-foot sidewalk to create a 4-foot parkway planter area. Additionally, one missing tree will be replanted and drought-tolerant plants will be installed. Work will be undertaken adjacent to the Goodwill Industries of Southern California, located at 1200 Vine Street. Goodwill Industries has pledged via maintenance agreement to oversee and maintain the project after its installation, and the Axiom Group will be the contractor performing the installation. Their insurance is on record with Quick Comply, which is the city's insurance tracking website. Plans for this project have been reviewed and approved by the Landscape Section and the Urban Forestry Division of Streets LA. At this time, I would ask that the board adopt this project so that we may move into the permitting phase of the process.
Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate that. Let's open this up. Vice President Garcia, any questions or comments?
I do not. Thank you, Jerry. And I think we have somebody here from Council District 13.
Oh, I see. Yes. Yeah. Hi, Sean.
You want to say something, Sean?
Thank you, Commissioners. This project is very important to our office. We started this late in 2019. It kind of birthed out of a community request along the Lexington residential corridor and the El Centro one, which uses this walk path to access the bus lanes on Vine Street, or the buses on Vine. Currently, this project will help hide an ugly gray wall around the Goodwill and Dollar Tree store there, and just really brighten up this neglected corner. So we're very excited about it. I know that Goodwill is very, very excited about helping out, and also community members around will help maintain and everything. So it's got full community support, and we can't wait to get started on it.
Oh, it sounds exciting. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Sorry, President Good. It sounds exciting. I'm fully supportive of this project. That's all for me. Thank you.
All right, thanks. And thanks, Sean, for coming and joining us. President Pro Tem Davis, any questions or comments?
No questions on this item. I'm fine on this item.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioner Coloso?
I don't have any questions. I work with the Council District 13 team often and just appreciate their work on this. And thank you, Mr. Vallito, for your work on this as well. I'm excited to see what this improved part of CD13 looks like. Congratulations.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Villegas?
I am good with this issue. Thank you.
Okay. Likewise. Thanks for the work, Jerry. Thank you, Sean, for joining us. And sounds like it'll be a nice project for the community and for the neighborhood. Do I have a motion to move this forward?
I'll second.
Okay, President Pro Tem Davis, motions to move forward, seconded by Vice President Garcia. Any questions or concerns? Commissioner Coloso?
No objections.
All right, Commissioner Villegas, any objections?
No objections. Thank you.
All right, hearing no objections, the item is approved forthwith. Thank you very much, Jerry and Sean.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Have great weekends. All right, let's go back, colleagues, to item number 5. Item number 5 is a partial transfer and memorandum of understanding, Los Angeles Department of Recreation and Parks, 4206 South Main Street Maintenance Facility. Recommending the board approve, subject to the approval of the mayor and the city council, the transfer of 3 parcels, APN 511-031-901, APN 5113-031-903, and APN 5113-031-902, equivalent to 21,000 square feet at the Bureau of Street Services Southeast Maintenance Yard at 4206 South Main Street, 42nd and Main Yard, to allow for the transfer of city park property, collectively the Layton lots, to the state of California as part of the planned development of the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art in Exposition Park. Authorize the executive director of the Bureau of Street Services to negotiate and execute a memorandum of understanding between the Bureau of Street Services and the Los Angeles Department of Recreation and Parks, specifying the terms of the future use of the affected parcels, including the investment of Rec and Parks funding to upgrade the yard to accommodate this transfer and use of the yard. And 3, authorize the Bureau of Street Services to identify and pursue available funding to be used for facility upgrades at the Southeast Maintenance Yard at 4206 South Main Street. Ming Gong is with us today for this presentation. The Director of Streets LA, Adel Hashkalil, is with us as well, and no doubt feeling blue about the Dodgers. And looking forward to hearing about this. This is actually an exciting example of a lot of things in the city. So, Ming, why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Sorry about that.
Very good, Adele.
Thank you very much, President Good, and it's my pleasure to present this to the commissions. Streets LA is happy to step in as the last piece of a long puzzle to enable the ongoing project there called the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art in Exposition Park. The transfer of property between the state of California and Recreation Parks by charter means that Recreation Parks will need an equivalent amount of land to be replaced. The yard that Streets LA controls over at 4206 South Main Street actually comprises 9 separate parcels. We're talking about 3 of those parcels, basically 7,000 square feet per parcel. That's about 21,000 square feet in order to effect this transfer, so that Recreation Parks by charter is enabled to transfer their Layton Avenue lots to the state of California for the Lucas Museum. I know that the work going on between the 2 GMs, my GM, Mr. Adel Hashkalil, and the general manager for Recreation Parks, they've had long conversations about how this could work. And we feel that this is going to be an excellent partnership between Recreation Parks and our Bureau. We've got similar partnerships in the past, and this would be a great opportunity for us to not only improve this yard for our cooperative and co-located use, but also an opportunity to enable this transaction to occur at Exposition Park. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ming, very much. All right, let's open this up, colleagues. Let's start off with President Pro Tem Davis.
Yes, in terms of the schedule and the time of this project, where are we in terms of that, in terms of the schedule?
A board report was heard by the Board of Recreation Parks Commissioners yesterday. But I believe they approved their board approved their report from their side. Following this action today, it will be going before council next week. And then following that, the transfer is expected to be completed by November 3rd.
Okay, thank you.
A rather tight deadline. I know I've been personally involved in daily 3:30 p.m. phone calls with the mayor's office to track the status of this and to see, what kind of nudging is needed.
Sure. All right, thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. President.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Commissioner Closa.
Thank you, President. Hi, Chi-Ming. Hi, Adele. Nice to see you both. Happy Friday. I don't have any questions on this. It's just one of those large projects that we forget that the city is taking on. In the midst of everything else, like all these projects are still moving full steam ahead. So I'm just really excited that this is another step in the direction of getting it completed. You know, we're excited that we, a friendly reminder about this project, that we snatched this project away from another city. And we, the mayor, through his leadership and many others, you know, drew the Lucas Museum to Los Angeles, which is really amazing. So I'm glad that the Public Works team is on it and you're all working on this. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coloso. Vice President Garcia.
Hi, thank you, President Good, Adele, Ming, thank you for having me here. Nice seeing you. I do have a question. So just clarifying, you will lose your yard or you will lose some of your yard? That's not happening.
No, that's not going to happen. We're proposing basically a co-location use. We're actually in the middle of collaborating right now with our staff, with the senior management of Recreation and Parks to restage some of the equipment, and they're going to actually help us improve the yard by taking some of the funds and using it with some of our funds to improve the yards for joint use. We actually have past history with Recreation Parks. We actually have a joint use yard already in existence that's been there since I joined the Bureau 26 years ago. So it's
the question is, we are giving away the land of yard for their use, for Rec and Park use, that they'll have that ownership, but we have to coexist, and that's the agreement that we're trying to work operation to make sure that operations can work together and improve, enhance the process, and that is something that we're going to keep on. But 1/3 of the property is being transferred.
I see. Okay. No, I mean, it sounds like a great partnership, and I'm excited about the overall project. So anything for Star Wars.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Commissioner Villegas.
Hi, thank you, Chi-Ming, for your presentation, and thank you, Adele, for the leadership. I think that you guys are pitch hitting, if I can make that analogy, even though I'm not a sports person. But I think you're filling in a void where parks or rec and parks is in need. So this 21,000 square feet that you are essentially offering up to rec and parks, since they're losing their parking lot thanks to the Lucas Museum. And you guys are filling in that void, and that void is relatively close to Expo Center. So it's a big coup for you to be mindful and to be flexible, as always, Adele, in your leadership and your team's leadership, and very just willing and open-minded just to be able to do these types of transactions, which are very complicated. And you're going through those nuances, you know, as you speak in a short period of time. So I really commend you for that. And also to Ted Jordan, because it's, you know, these are legal issues and they're not easy. So I understand that. And I just wanted to, you know, really express that to all of you, because these are difficult transactions, even though the end product is really pretty, right? The Lucas Museum is going to be a work of art. And just, you know, finding that space isn't easy. I mean, we've tried to do it. I shouldn't say we, because I'm part of the city family now, but for 17 years I was with the county, so I always say we. Just trying to find a swap, you know, for Public Works yards and rails, and, you know, rails land with Taylor Yards, and that wasn't possible. But these transactions are not easy. The lights go off in my office. But I just wanted to, you know, commend you for seeing an opportunity and just being able to, like, work with offering up your yards and being able to do this transaction. That's a big deal. And it can't go without, you know, being said or being noticed. So thank you for that. I know that the 21,000 square feet that you all are losing over at your yards, you are trying to see how you're going to be able to fit into the remainder. I don't know what the X access the other, looks like you have another, what is it, like maybe 10 lots or so that are, you know, part of your yard. You're going to be able to fit in all the equipment and the track loaders and the bulldozers and all that kind of stuff into your other land just adjacent to this. So keep me informed of how that comes along. I think it's really imperative that we just go through all the details and see how we can best, you know, work through this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. You know, I would just echo a lot of this. I mean, this is a great example, I think, of where the big city goals, the realization of a project that is in construction as we speak, a project that will be a landmark for the city in perpetuity. The Lucas Museum was an extraordinary win, and it has required the movement of heaven and earth and a maintenance yard to get it done. And, you know, the movement of heaven and earth often happens in quick and little ways that are actually very big ways. And it requires people to think out of the box. It requires people to be adaptive. It requires people to make sacrifice in the service of the meta goals of really making sure that this remains the greatest city on the planet. Adele and Ming have moved with great speed, with great flexibility, with great creativity, and with great leadership in frankly, taking a leap of faith and transferring these parcels into or to Recon Parks under the auspices that we'll all figure out how to work together moving forward. I would echo Commissioner Villegas also in thanking Ted Jordan for working with everybody and sort of dotting lines and cross the T's on this. And this is truly a great example of leadership, also a great example of collaboration. General Manager Mike Scholl ready to work with General Manager Adel Hashkhalil, and everybody just rolling up sleeves in service to the big picture here. And it's really good. It's going to be extraordinary when this thing gets done. The project's supposed to be done next year, and we'll all, whether with masks or not, we will show up and we will celebrate it. And then we'll drive over to the Main Street Yard to really see what this project's all about. Adele, you're here. Anything you want to add on this?
Thank you very much, and thank you to the mayor's office. I think you can hear me, hopefully. One thing is, for me, is the higher calling. We all have to really think about what's best for our community, our city, our future. And sometimes we have to sacrifice, but as you know, Streets LA and the team in Streets LA is always there to really enhance the quality of life for all. That's our mission. And, you know, whenever higher calling comes in, and this is important, we had to step in and help. I just can't ask for greater leaders in the organization like Ming, Sherman Torres, and others who stepped in and never said no. They said, let's figure out how to make it work. And I look forward to the partnership with Mike Scholl. But really, it's all about the future of the city. And we all have to give. We all have to sacrifice. We all have to collaborate. As I always say, it's all about inclusion. It's all about integration and innovation. And we need to think outside the box. This is the future. I'm proud to be a part of this organization, serve a great mayor, great board, and make the city a great place for our children and grandchildren. So we're a small piece of this, but I'm happy that we're able to help. Thank you.
Great job, Adele. Great job, Ming. Also, to your point, can't give enough credit to Deputy Mayor Barbara Romero, Executive Officer Carol Armstrong, Zakiya Nazarzai, from the Mayor's Office of City Services. They have just been working on this relentlessly now for years, and are going to really bring this to fruition. And then also Council District 9, Councilmember Kern Price and his team have been relentless in this project as well. So this is going to genuinely be a city family triumph, and that's right, Streets LA just represented for Public Works yet again in this project. So thank you all very much. With that, I will motion to move this item forward. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second that.
Okay, I've got Commissioner Villegas and Vice President Garcia seconding the motion. President Pro Tem Davis, any objections? You're muted, sir.
It's unmute.
Sorry about that. No objections whatsoever.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Colosa, any objections?
No objections.
All right, hearing no objections, the item is approved forthwith. Thank you all very, very much.
And by the way, I think that Adele should wear his like Superman outfit again because he can. Just for the record.
With his Dodger hat.
Yeah.
I've got a picture of him in a Dodger uniform too, FYI. So, great job, guys. Thank you all very much. All right, colleagues, let's move forward with. We're on item number 7.
Okay.
The indefatigable Paul Roch is with us from the Office of Community Beautification. This is a citywide item, and this is contract report and budget increase for the strike force and specialty graffiti removal contracts. Recommending the board, subject to approval of the mayor, 1, authorize the execution of contracts for a continuation of graffiti abatement services in fiscal year 2020-21 through fiscal year 2022-2023 as listed. Gang Alternatives Program in the amount of $500,000 for Uniting Neighborhoods to Abolish Graffiti Strike Force Services with a contract ceiling amount established at $2 million. And graffiti control systems in the amount of $25,000 for specialty graffiti removal services with a ceiling amount established also at $2 million. 2, authorize an increase to the ceiling amount of the contract with graffiti control systems by an additional amount of $297,600 to allow the Bureau of Street Services to piggyback on the contract for cleaning and graffiti removal services of various vehicular tunnels throughout the city. 3, authorize an increase to the ceiling amount of the contract for graffiti control systems by an additional amount of $20,000 to allow the Department of General Services to piggyback on the contract for cleaning and graffiti removal of city-owned buildings and facilities. And 4, authorize the president or 2 members of the Board of Public Works to execute the contract amendments after approval as to form has been obtained by the city attorney. This item was continued from last Friday, October 9th, 2020. And again, Paul Roch, Director of Office of Community Beautification, is with us here today. Paul, please proceed, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Good afternoon, President Good, Commissioners. Paul Roch, Director of the Office of Community Beautification. Today, OCB brings forward 2 recommendations for graffiti abatement contracts, the specialty abatement and the strike force crews. Both of these are in response to the request for proposal that was released earlier this year. In regards to the specialty abatement program, there were 2 proposers which focused on, and the specialty abatement program focuses on items such as graffiti removal from murals, applications of protective coatings to murals, graffiti removal from historic buildings, high elevations, or various other reasons. There were 2 respondents to this particular aspect of the RFP. One of the respondents, Fine Arts Conservation Laboratories, was deemed to be non-responsive as they did not possess the required licenses in order to perform as a graffiti abatement contractor for the City of Los Angeles. Graffiti Control Systems, which currently provides these specialty services, is being recommended for a new contract to continue to provide the specialty work. They have provided excellent service in various situations to OCB and to the Bureau of Street Services and the Department of General Services, which have both requested to piggyback on the contract to provide graffiti abatement for them as needed. The second recommendation for a contract deals with the graffiti abatement strike force teams. These are 5 crews that are rotated around the city on a weekly basis to supplement the work of regular graffiti removal crews. They provide OCB with the flexibility to assign resources as needed and into particularly high impact areas. A few recent examples of how these crews have recently been deployed was when one of our contractors had an employee test positive for COVID-19 and they needed to shut down all their operations for a few days. OCB was able to assign these strike force crews into the area so that graffiti removal would continue uninterrupted. Earlier this week, when the Lakers celebrations resulted in a huge amount of vandalism downtown, these strike force crews were deployed in the area to boost up the abatement efforts of regular graffiti removal crews. There were 3 responders to the RFP that applied for the strike force program: Graffiti Control Systems, Urban Graffiti Enterprises, and Gang Alternatives Program. OCB is recommending that Gang Alternatives Program be awarded the contract as they were the highest rated of the 3 proposers and had the lowest cost. All 3 proposers were rated on the cost to operate 5 full-time graffiti removal crews. GAP's bid was $649,000. GCS's bid was $732,000, and Urban Graffiti Enterprises' bid was $1,034,000. Further, because GAP is a nonprofit community-based organization, they are able to supplement their workforce with community service workers as opposed to the other 2 bidders. That concludes my report, and I stand ready to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Paul, very much. I will attest to the import and the efficacy of the Strike Force program because just even to speaking to one of the examples that Paul gave, just this week, I made that request directly to Paul for the Strike Force work downtown after the unfortunate ancillary effects of the Lakers win, and within hours, Paul had teams down there. So that level of flexibility, that level of responsiveness is really crucial for the city. It made a huge difference. This is really quite important. So, colleagues, we'll open this up. Vice President, or actually, we'll start with President Pro Tem Davis. You're muted, Mike.
I don't know why it self-mutes. I have no questions on this item.
Okay, thank you, sir. I didn't know. We got to work on your mute thing because mine doesn't self-mute. Really?
Yeah, it's just doing it on its own.
Oh goodness. All right.
It's magic in the background.
It's what?
It's magic in the background.
It's
called the host. It's called the host.
Okay. Very good, Fernando. All right, Commissioner Calosa.
Thank you, President Good. I had a quick question. Was there any public comment for this item? I know we had received some emails prior to this from what seemed like was going to be a protest. I just wanted to clarify before I continue to ask questions.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Calosa, say it again?
I guess that's a question for Dr. Campos. Is there anyone on the line? I know there were documents that we had received prior from what sounded like a potential protest.
Yeah, Commissioner Caloza, great question. No, we do not have anybody on the line under general public comment or any commentary on this item. We did accommodate by continuing this item last week to today for a potential protester, which is the one you're referring to. I did receive an email at 1:28 this afternoon from Ms. Maria Gutierrez, who is with Urban Graffiti Enterprises Incorporated. This is the company that submitted the firm that submitted the protest letter. According to Ms. Gutierrez, after thorough review of the agenda, they concluded that it did not make sense for them to attend today's meeting. So, in short, no one else is on the line.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to double check and confirm.
Good question.
So, for Mr. Raj, I know that one was resolved already, but maybe you can just kind of quickly explain what happened and why they were deemed to be unresponsive, just for awareness.
Yeah, the one contractor that was deemed to be unresponsive, again, had applied only for the mural coating and mural restoration portion of the contract. They did not possess the licenses required by the city to be a contractor, general contractor's license, and also to have the specialty paint contractor's license. Additionally, they were only interested in working on restoration of murals, and the specialty work does include work beyond that. But because they didn't have the required licenses anyway, we weren't really able to even further discuss with them the particulars of their RFP.
Got it. And can you just briefly explain the difference between what we had prior and prior contract, and did you make any changes to this one? I know we discussed it when we were issuing the RFQ for this, but if you could just refresh my memory.
Sure. So two things. So the specialty contract, the work on murals and mural coatings and stuff, our current contractor is Graffiti Control Systems, and we are proposing to continue with Graffiti Control Systems for that contract. For the strike force crews for the up until the current fiscal year, those strike force crews were split between two contractors, Gang Alternatives Program and Graffiti Control Systems. But based on the responses to the RFP.
Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, you muted yourself.
Whoops. Am I back? Okay. Yeah. Somehow I always get a phone call whenever I'm on a Zoom meeting, right? So again, previously, Graffiti Control Systems and GAP split the strike force crews, but based on the cost, it was more cost effective to give that contract specifically to Gang Alternatives Program for a citywide strike force crew. We get more crews on the street for more days utilizing the one contract.
I see. And then this is going to be a 3-year contract?
Correct, through June of 2023.
Does this have any renewals?
At this point, it does not, though, it's entirely likely that we may go to City Council, just depending how things are in 2023, whether we release a new RFP or extend the current one. But, currently this is a 3-year contract. The board can approve contracts for up to 3 years. Ideally, we would go out to RFP again after the 3-year period, but, who knows what the future holds.
Got it. And then just a last question for me. The last contract that we had, did we have that in place like around 8 years? Do I remember that correctly?
That was in place from, from July of 2013.
Got it. Okay.
Up through current, correct.
Okay, so it was about 8-year contract, and this is about a 3-year contract. Okay.
It was a series of 8 one-year contracts. It was not, I mean, every year we came to the board or to council to renew it for another year, if that makes sense. It wasn't a full 8-year contract at the beginning of the contract.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. I don't have any other questions, President Good.
Thank you, Commissioner Colosa. Commissioner Villegas. Commissioner Villegas?
Did you say my name already?
Yeah, that's okay.
I didn't hear it because I have to keep pressing the button, mute or mute.
No
My
worries.
apologies. I have no questions. I'm fine. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Vice President Garcia?
Thank you, President Good. I have no questions either.
Okay. I don't either. Thank you for the process on this and waiting for a week. It's obviously crucial work. So thank you, Paul. Thank you, Jerry. And I'll entertain a motion to move this item forward.
I'll move.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. President Pro Tem Davis. Commissioner Carlosa, any objections?
None.
All right. Hearing no objections, the item is approved forthwith. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Jerry. Y'all have a great weekend, okay?
Have a good weekend.
All right. Thanks, y'all. Colleagues, that brings us to item number 8. And this is a revocable permit, encroachment in public right-of-way, 1317 South Grand Avenue. This is in CD 14. Recommending the board, just recommending the board authorize the city engineer to issue a revocable permit, or a permit, to encroach within the public right-of-way, or public way, subject to the conditions listed. Encroachments: Cameron Lane, 14 balconies per floor, for a total of 84 balconies encroaching 6 feet 3.75 inches by 9 feet 3 inches, starting from the 3rd floor to the 8th floor. Catesby Lane, that's a great name, 1 balcony per floor for a total of 6 balconies encroaching 6 feet 3.75 inches by 9 feet 3 inches, starting from the 3rd floor to the 8th floor. And Grand Avenue, A, 1 balcony each per floor for a total of 2 balconies on the 7th and 8th floor, encroaching 2 feet by 8 feet. B, 3.25 foot wide by 10 foot long and 3.25 foot wide by 11 foot long landscape parkways and irrigation systems starting 18 inches behind the curb. C, non-city of Los Angeles standard concrete sidewalk paving and scoring pattern. Ramsey Sawaya is with us to present on this item. Good afternoon, Ramsey. Thank you for your patience and sticking with us. Please tell us about this.
Good afternoon. My name is Ramsey Sawaya, and I'm with the Bureau of Engineering. The request in front of you is for a revocable permit to encroach into the public right-of-way at 1317 South Grand. And the proposal is to encroach with 92 balconies, landscape, and non-standard sidewalk. The project consists of 8-story, and it consists of 147 unit affordable housing with 17 unit marked as extremely low income. The project is surrounded by Cameron Lane, Catesby Lane, and Grand Avenue. The balcony starts on Cameron Lane and Catesby Lane. It starts from the 3rd floor up. On Cameron Lane, they're proposing 84 balconies. The lowest balcony is 23 feet 6 inches above the pavement. Cameron Lane and Catesby Lane consist of a alley section. It does not have any sidewalks. They're only 20 feet wide. There is no trees, there is no power poles, there is no street lighting. On Grand Avenue, the encroachment is on the 7th and 8th floor, and they're encroaching with 1 balcony on each floor. Also, on Grand Avenue, they're proposing to put a landscape parkway, and they want to place a decorative concrete sidewalk. There is no known controversy or conflict associated with this encroachment. It does not adversely impact the vehicular or pedestrian traffic. We are recommending that the board adopts it and grant the city engineer the authorization to issue the revocable permit. Of course, subject to the conditions that are listed in the report.
Okay. Thank you, Ramsey. Any questions, Vice President Garcia?
I have no questions. Thank you, President Good.
Okay. President Pro Tem Davis?
No questions on this one.
Thank you, Mike. Did we lose Commissioner Villegas? Oh.
No, she's there.
Okay, all right. So any questions, Commissioner Closa?
No questions for me, and this is why I
Okay. Commissioner Villegas had to step away, but I don't have any questions either. We maintain quorum here. Although I think Commissioner Villegas is back with us.
She's joining you in about 5 seconds.
I'm here.
There you go.
Hi, Commissioner Villegas. Any questions?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
My apologies.
No problems. Do I have a motion to move the item forward?
I'll move it.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Closer. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, VP Vice President Garcia and President Pro Tem Davis. I've got seconds from both. Any objections, Commissioner Villegas?
No objections, thank you.
All right, hearing no objections, the item is approved forthwith. Thank you, Ramsey, very much. You have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
All right, that brings us to our last item, number 9, folks. David Kempton is here with us to give us a status update on major upcoming street improvement projects from Streets LA. Mr. Kempton? Good afternoon.
Oh, there he is.
Hi. You actually, looks like you're still muted.
Yeah, it's doing this muting thing.
There we go.
There it is.
There we go.
Good afternoon, President Good, Commissioners, and the others still present in our meeting this afternoon. I'm David Kempton, Superintendent with Streets Los Angeles. Okay. The information is...
David, can you turn your volume up a little? We're not hearing you very well.
I don't know, is that working better?
Dr. Campos, I'm still having a hard time hearing you. Is there anything we can do?
Is that better?
Nothing that I can do on my end. Mr. Kempton, are you using a tablet or a desktop or laptop?
This is a cell phone.
Oh, cell phone.
Cell phone.
Okay, we'll just have to strain up.
So David, give it to us at your like you were at the choir. So
And can you hear me now?
See, that's what I need to hear.
Much better.
Right. That's right.
Okay, the information being provided
Sorry.
keeps the public informed on upcoming resurfacing projects and to minimize the impacts on the community as well as delays to commuters. Streets LA would like to provide you with an updated on all major upcoming street improvement projects. Okay?
You're setting a new standard right now, David, just so you know, for everybody. So keep it coming. This is good. This is fun.
All right. In our metro resurfacing region, during the week of October 8th through October 24th, the metro region is completing 9 projects for a total of 4.21 lane miles, and we have no major street projects going on in the metro region. In the valley region, we have through October 18th to October 24th, we have 14 projects for 3.61 lane miles. And on Saturday, October 24th, from 6:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., we will be cold milling and paving Ventura Boulevard between Mammoth Avenue and Matilaha Avenue in CD4 Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council Pavement Preservation Program. This concludes my presentation.
First off, Mr. Kempton, you have a future in radio if you ever choose to pursue it. Two, you have, I think, I'm waiting for the motion to require our end of meeting reports on Friday afternoons to be sung rather than said. Because you darn near sang that. That was great. Do I have any questions, colleagues? Vice President Garcia?
No, I was gonna recommend wrestling. You could be a good commentator. No, I'm good.
Thank you. President Pro Tem Davis?
No, I'm fine.
All right.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Coloso?
Clearly you've done that before, Mr. Kempton.
I know.
Before. That was probably the most entertaining report we've had, so we hope to see you again.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Villegas?
Yeah, I listened more to your intonation to the actual message that you delivered.
That's
No
right.
questions, thank you.
Yeah, notable to both of their points. We didn't exactly have to twist your arm to do that. We know, David. You were on the ready, and you should let Adele know whenever he's got a tough report to make to get you come in to sing it, and you'll winnow away some of the heat. So that was great. Thank you very much, sir. I have no question. Really appreciate the report, and you have a great weekend. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Dr. Campos, does that clear the decks?
Yes, you have. Yes, it does.
All right. All right, colleagues, this meeting is officially adjourned. We will take a 10-minute break and reconvene for our management meeting at 3:47 in the PM. All right?
All right. Very good.
All right, folks. Thank y'all. Thank you, David. Thank you, Ted. Are you going to join us for the management meeting? Okay. Don't get too excited there. All right, thanks, Ted. I'll see everybody back in a second.